Japan preparing for evacuation of 60,000 citizens from South Korea. With tensions ratcheting up on the Korean Peninsula, Japan has come up with a bug-out plan for tens of thousands of Japanese in South Korea. Tokyo is preparing 4 contingency plans. In the event 60,000 Japanese citizens, 38,000 residents, and 19,000 tourists need to be evacuated from South Korea because of conflicts with North Korea. Depending on the severity of the situation, Japan plans to limit non-essential travel to South Korea, discourage all travel to South Korea, advise all Japanese to evacuate, or encourage them to take shelter in place. During a shelter-in-place scenario where airports are no longer an option, Seoul has agreed to give Japanese nationals access to over 900 designated safe zones. Depending on the circumstances, Japanese citizens could also have to return by sea from the port city of Busan. Japan is currently in talks with the U.S. to have American forces transport evacuees to Busan. In response to Pyongyang's 6th nuclear test, Japan and the U.S. are looking to increase economic pressure on North Korea through an oil embargo and other measures. Oh dear, leader. North Korea developing solid fuel missiles? Maybe. If you believe North Korean news, it looks like Kim Jong-un has the country developing new solid fuel missiles. Photos released by North Korean state media appear to show new solid fuel missile designs. One of the missiles was labeled Puguksong-3, which could be the latest in its Polaris series. The Puguksong-3 could have a longer range, as well as canister launching capabilities, which would make them easier to transport and harder to locate. A canister-based system would mean that North Korea could also fire the missiles via submarine. Solid fuel engines would allow for reduced launch times compared to liquid fuel missiles. Experts say it's more difficult to make out what type of design the other missile pictured was. Some speculated it was either a Hwasong-13 or Hwasong-11. How to stop a North Korean missile? Let us count the ways. The U.S. and its military allies in Asia are preparing for a potential North Korean missile strike at Guam. The U.S., South Korea, and Japan have several lines of defense against North Korean missiles, including the Aegis and THAAD anti-ballistic missile defense systems. North Korea plans to launch 4 missiles at waters near Guam. THAAD systems in South Korea could track the missiles by radar, but would not be able to intercept them in space on their trajectory to Guam. The trajectory of the North Korean missiles may also carry them past Japanese Aegis ships in the Sea of Japan. However, U.S. Aegis ships stationed in the Western Pacific would stand a better chance of interception. The last line of defense is the THAAD missile defense system on Guam. The system has a good record in tests, but has never been tested in a real-world scenario. One other option is to allow the North Korean missiles to hit their target and fall into the sea. If Japan or the U.S. shoot the missiles down, things could escalate with North Korea. If the Allies fired and missed, however, it would send a strong signal to North Korea that U.S. and Japanese anti-missile defense systems don't work, which may embolden Kim Jong-un's regime. So where exactly is Guam? North Korea says it will soon be ready to launch missiles that will land near Guam as tensions ramp up between Pyongyang and Washington. Guam is located in the Western Pacific Ocean, around 2,100 miles from North Korea. It is within the range of North Korea's medium and long-range missiles. The 210-square-mile island is a U.S. territory. It has 3 U.S. military bases, including an Air Force base that hosts B-52 bombers and fighter jets. Some 6,000 U.S. troops are stationed on Guam, which has a total population of around 162,000 people. Guam is protected by the U.S. Army's THAAD missile defense system, which is designed to shoot down ballistic missiles. According to state media, North Korea's military is waiting for approval from Kim Jong-un to fire 4 rockets that will land in the sea about 17 miles from Guam. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has warned Kim's regime that any threat to the U.S. would be met with fire and fury. How easily can the U.S. declare nuclear war? U.S. President Donald Trump says the U.S.'s nuclear arsenal is far stronger and more powerful than ever before, after warning North Korea that their provocations would be met with fire and fury. Amid the escalating tensions between the U.S. and North Korea, some have expressed concern over whether a war, specifically nuclear war, is imminent, and how easily the U.S. president could make that happen. The U.S. Constitution gives Congress the power to declare wars and authorize funds to support them. The president would normally appeal to Congress for authorization if he wants to declare a war. However, the president also has temporary authority to use force for up to 60 days without congressional approval. Even though the decision cannot be opposed, Congress can choose to cut funding if it believes the military engagement is not in the best interest of the country. Under international law, the U.S. may only use military force against another sovereign state if it faces an imminent, unprovoked, and certain threat. The U.S. may use force in anticipation of that attack, but it cannot declare war based on potential threats. Or the U.S. could declare war after receiving authorization from the UN Security Council, in which it serves as a permanent member. However, other permanent members, such as China and Russia, could use their veto power to prevent the U.S. from taking action. The U.S. and North Korea came very close to war in 1994, after Pyongyang announced its intention to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The crisis was reportedly resolved after a top-level diplomatic meeting of former U.S. President Jimmy Carter and former DPRK leader Kim Il-sung.